Some of the biggest stories today, this morning. February 5th, 2024. According to ABC News, senators unveil a bipartisan bill to overhaul immigration system along with Israel-Ukraine aid. That's the ABC News headline. Apparently this agreement will, quote-unquote, beef up border security and immigration enforcement while authorizing more assistance to Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan. I'm not going to read the whole story. You can go look it up. That's the headline, and it's ABC News. The things I wanted to talk about with this is, number one, beefing up border security. Yeah, definitely we should do that, especially with the numbers that we have coming across the border. Hopefully they will help Texas with the security measures and keeping out illegal migrants, because that's a huge issue. You know, my last video that I made, I talked about how it's going to affect us with taxes. And it will. It's going to be huge. The amount of money that it's going to take to rectify the numbers that we've already had come across the border with, you know, cracking down on drug trafficking and sex and human trafficking, as well as the drug cartels. It's going to be massive. Not only that, I talked about, you know, masses coming from other countries. There's a huge number of people coming from Africa and China, as well as some other countries, but besides Mexico, those are the two huge ones, Africa and China. We've already identified known terrorists coming through the southern border as well. And I'm not talking about from Africa and just from China, but others as well in the Middle East. So it's a huge deal, and it's going to take tons of man hours, lots of time, years. It's going to take years to track down cartels and trafficking, human, sex, and drug trafficking, as well as the terrorists in the country. That's aside from deporting illegals. It's gonna take a ton of time. It's gonna take years, and it's gonna take billions, if not trillions of dollars that we American citizens are gonna have to pay. Not only us, but our children, our grandchildren, probably our great-grandchildren. The other thing is funding these other countries. And I believe if people need help, you should help them if it's the right reasons. We've helped Ukraine tremendously. Frankly, I think it's time that we kind of cut that tie. We're the ones paying for these wars. We're the ones paying for assistance to Israel, Taiwan, and Ukraine. Apparently, about $118.28 billion will go to helping with national security. Included in the funding, ABC News says $60.06 billion to support Ukraine. $60 billion to support Ukraine to fight against Russia. $14.1 billion for Israel. And that's a lot of money, but I believe we should help Israel before Ukraine at this point. And then also $10 billion in humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza, the West Bank, Ukraine, and other people in conflict zones. Also $4.83 billion to support Indo-Pacific regional partners and deter aggression by the Chinese government. So the Indo-Pacific regional partners, according to the White House, the whitehouse.gov, We are deepening our 5 regional treaty alliances with Australia, Japan, the ROC, Philippines, and Thailand, and strengthening relationships with leading regional partners, including Indonesia, India, Malaysia, Mongolia, New Zealand, Singapore, Taiwan, Vietnam, and the Pacific Islands. So those are our Indo-Pacific regional partners. So $4.83 billion to support them and deter aggression by the Chinese government. I want to know other people's views on this. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more people out there that know a lot more about these things than I do, but it's just my opinion. This is me learning and sharing. I'm hoping other people can see these things and educate themselves as well. I think it's important for us to do that, especially if we're electing officials into office. We need to know what is happening, where they stand, and where our tax dollars are going. So this bipartisan bill, it also includes border policy changes, $20.3 billion for existing operational border needs, and the introduction of the Fentanyl Eradication and Narcotics Deterrence off Fentanyl Act. So over $20 billion for operational border needs, whatever that entails. Hopefully it's to help with border patrol and security. And then obviously fentanyl is a huge deal in the US. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can see, a lot of videos and news articles that you can see on the effects of fentanyl. Tyler Oliveira, huge YouTuber, and he recently did a video where he went to Washington and Oregon and looked into the legal drugs there. One of them being fentanyl, and it showed a ton of people who were overdosed on fentanyl. One thing that really surprised me was seeing so many people walking with their backs bent. Like, they were walking bent in half, basically. Like their head was down by their knees. And it's because when they take fentanyl, it makes them pass out. Maybe not even sleeping, maybe just high, bent over like that. And so their spines are permanently like that. It's insane. But go check out his video, Tyler Oliveira. So reading further into this ABC News article about the bipartisan bill, this is a paragraph I'm reading directly from this article. Sources previously told ABC News that the deal would require the Department of Homeland Security to nearly shut down the border if migrant crossings increase above 5,000 per day on any given week, or if average daily encounters reach a 4,000 a day threshold in a 1-week span. You know, in my last video, I started it with a fact. Over 300,000 migrants crossed the border in December alone. In December alone, 1 month. Over 300,000. So, which is 10,000 a day, average 10,000 a day in December. It's lower now, obviously, because Texas has shut down the border. We do still have people coming through. They've started coming through California and Arizona. I'm hoping there are some people there with some sense to follow Texas' lead and close the borders. Millions have come across our border illegally because our administration has allowed it. And big cities like New York, who's already overcrowded, even more crowded. I mean, there's people who can't, even Chicago, Chicago, already crowded, is becoming overwhelmingly crowded. And there's homeless shelters and soup kitchens, food pantries, where American citizens can't even get in line for anymore because of the migrants. They have nowhere to go, and they have no food, no plan. They're taking up these spaces in lines for homeless shelters and food pantries, soup kitchens, even schools, which I talked about a little bit in my last video. I haven't seen anything or heard anything about Chicago, but New York started closing schools temporarily to house migrants. So these tax-paying citizens, their tax dollars are going to their child's education. They pay for their education. They're kicking these kids out of school, affecting their education, when these parents have paid taxes and enrollment fees, registration fees, whatever you want to call it, admission fees, for their child to be in that school, and they're not able to attend because they're housing migrants. So that's all I'm going to talk about on that one. That's that bipartisan bill to overhaul immigration system along with aid to other countries. South Dakota tribe bans governor from reservation over U.S. border comments. Let's check this out and see what the governor says. Okay. So the first couple paragraphs in this article from theguardian.com. A South Dakota tribe has banned the state's Republican governor, Kristi Noem, from one of the U.S. largest reservations after she spoke this week about wanting to send razor wire and security personnel to Texas to help deter immigration at the southern border with Mexico. I hope I'm saying this right. Oglala Sioux tribe president said Noem's ban from the Pine Ridge Reservation resulted from the fact that many arriving at the U.S. border with Mexico are indigenous people from places like El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico who come, and this is in quotes, in search of jobs and a better life. Noem had said drug cartels were infiltrating the state's reservation shortly before the ban was announced. This is also a quote. Due to the safety of the Oyate, effective immediately, you are hereby banished from the homelands of the Oglala Sioux tribe. Star Comes Out said in a Friday statement addressed to Noem, Oyate is a word for people or nation. Star Comes Out accused Noem, I guess that's the guy's name, Star Comes Out, accused Noem of trying to use the border issues to help get Donald Trump a second presidency and boost her chances of becoming his running mate. No matter why you say those things, this is our country. So for those of you who don't know, Mexico borders Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. So the South Dakota tribe has banned this Republican governor, Kristi Noem, for saying that she would like to send razor wire and security personnel to help Texas with deterring immigration at the southern border with Mexico. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. I wish all states would do that. I wish all states would help with razor wire and security at all points of the border. I believe that because this is our country. It's not just Texas's country. It's not just Arizona, New Mexico, and California's country because they're the border states. It's our country. Every state should do that. But if drug cartels are already infiltrating your reservation, why not help with keeping them out? Why would you not want to keep drug cartels out of your reservation? Why would you not want to keep them out of your state and your country? This is from Fox News. But they referenced Nightline ABC. Their headline is Border Militias Take Up Arms, and it's about this group of vigilantes I believe they're previous military men who are patrolling the U.S. side of the southern border in areas that are not being patrolled. And I think that's awesome too. I think if you're able to take that time away from your family and your job, maybe you're retired. I think some of these guys are retired military personnel. But if you're able to do that, if you're able to take that time away from your family and your job to help with patrolling the border, even as a U.S. citizen, you should do it. This is our country. I think it's awesome that they're doing that and helping. There's actually a story that 60 Minutes put out last night, I believe, talking about Chinese migrants coming through the U.S.-Mexico border as well. So last year, according to 60 Minutes, 2.5 million people were detained or turned away from the U.S.-Mexico border. Chinese migrants had the most among the 2.5 million. And so this video that I watched, the 60 Minutes video, shows there's a 4-foot gap on the California border that these Chinese migrants are coming through. And I'm saying Chinese people because it's mostly Chinese people coming through this part of the border right here that they're showing on this video. Again, it's on 60 Minutes YouTube channel. The title of the video is Chinese Migrants Are Fastest Growing Group Crossing into U.S. from Mexico. So go check that out. But again, there's a 4-foot gap. There's a huge fence, I guess you could say. It's a bunch of big posts that create this fence. And then there's some razor wire that comes off of the fence to the ground. But there's a huge 4-foot gap that you can crawl right under, no problem, and miss that razor wire. And so these people are just pouring in, and it talks about, you know, they show this vehicle dropping off. It's a smuggler dropping off migrants, and these Chinese people pay $400 to bring them to the border. And then, you know, the video shows, I think it's another 40 minutes, they're dropping off another group of people, huge group of people. Another 30 minutes, they're dropping a huge group of people off. It even shows an armed border patrol agent just standing there and watching them coming in, doing nothing, saying nothing. I don't know if they're supposed to, but they should. It also shows, the video doesn't talk about it, but it also shows a border patrol vehicle behind the smuggler's vehicle, and nothing happens. Just these people get out of the vehicle and they come right in. There were a lot of people from Mexico, South America, the Middle East, but most of these people were Chinese. Not only lower class, but also middle class. It shows one lady, she sold her house, took flights to Ecuador to get here, and then paid a smuggler to bring her here. She left her children and her family in China and came here. And she was asked, did you come here for work? And she said no. The reason she came here was freedom. And that's the two biggest reasons why people from China come here. Maybe the only two, but the two biggest for sure is lack of work and low wages, and for freedom from the oppressive government. That is all the news that we have for today. Don't forget to like my videos, comment on my videos. I would love to see everybody's opinions on these things. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It definitely helps the algorithm for my videos to show up on other people's pages.